So just to give you an overview of the event, I'm going to introduce the exhibition and what Future Collect is, and then we're going to move on to talking about drawing on the wall. Jade and I are just going to have a really nice conversation about what it means to interpret something, to interpret words, text, knowledge, language. And we'll talk for around 15 minutes. And then after that, I will be drawing directly on the wall as Jade reads from a text that she has written. And I also wanted to mention that if you have a little look through the Zoom conversations, if you look for Nikki G, you'll find that there is a second viewing location of the charcoal, which is currently surrounded by the plinth. And just to illustrate, I'm going to run over there and show you. So there'll be two different locations that you can view the drawing from, if you wanted to pin that as it happens. So yes, thank you all for coming. I wanted to give you a short description about what this space is. Constellations, Care and Resistance is part exhibition, part studio, and it functions really as a place to spark curiosity for Jade and I as artist and curator, where we're working on a work that Jade is commissioned to do for Manchester Art Gallery in the next coming months. As you're all aware, we are in a national lockdown and it isn't the first one. And so we have developed this thinking of presenting Jade's collection in the gallery space when people can come and see it, to have people have the opportunity to meet her, really. Not to say that her work is her, but some of her thinking, creative thinking, is really prevalent in the work that's on display and shows a really thoughtful appreciation of care, which has been enacted within the works here. And they have been made over a period of about 5 to 6 years, from around 2015 up until now. And they are in conversation with some of the works from Manchester Art Gallery's collection as well, including the Mark Titcheners, which are on display behind me here. And the reason we chose this approach was to really start to think about what it means to have a public collection and what it means to collect and keep these artworks for the people of Manchester and beyond. The exhibition and this project comes out of an initiative called Future Collect, which started to think about what works are in collections that are created by artists of Black or Asian British heritage. And we are year one of the Future Collect project, which is a visual partnership between INIVA, the Institute of International Visual Arts, and Manchester in this case. And it also includes the new partnership supporting a curatorial trainee. And I am the first curatorial trainee for this project, and hopefully this will be a really exciting opportunity for the gallery to learn from my perspectives and my opportunity to learn from the gallery about what it means to collect and whose power is on display when we do have exhibitions here at the gallery of our permanent collection. So to give you a little overview of Jade, she works primarily with language, and she uses various materials to to express her thoughts and ideas around how language is used and how we express ourselves through language and through the body. And she has a really beautiful way of presenting this creative work that is always, I've found, miles ahead of any kind of thinking I've ever seen. Case in point is an artwork that talks about our responsibility to question our monuments, which was created in 2015 but is so important today, especially in light of this summer. And during the summer, we engaged in a workshop called Block Universe, which was the first digital online festival that included a workshop that we did called Drawing Out, where I read from Jade's text and she responded in order to create new work. And I wanted to show you a little bit of that on this Zoom now, so I'll just see if we can share that. This was the work that was eventually created from Jade's practice of drawing on the wall with the charcoal. And what was really nice about this event is that people got the opportunity to understand why Jade has used charcoal in her previous works, and what it means to use text to create. So here are some of the works that have been created in the past by Jade using that charcoal. And here are some of the responses also from people who took part in that event, which was really beautiful and peaceful. And yeah, I think it was a really wonderful way to spend time, considering that we weren't able to be together in the space. And we really wanted to keep the legacy of that project, and so decided that this charcoal and its history and its relationship to Jade and its relationship to people should feature in the exhibition display that is on show now at Manchester Art Gallery, and that we would write it directly on the wall. Unfortunately, because of the lockdown, we're unable to have Jade here with us to write, and so as an alternative, and I'm going to write and Jade is going to read from the text that we read for Block Universe. So it's almost a reversal of that creative action. So I'm going to be chatting with Jade now a little bit about what this means, because it is quite different, I think, to interpret directly onto the wall, and it's going to help to support and formulate new ideas that are growing out of this studio/exhibition space. I wanted to ask, what about drawing directly onto the wall is something that is radical to you as a form of interpretation?
Yeah. The idea that drawing directly onto the wall is radical, you suggested. Also, yeah, I don't know about that, how radical it is, but I think as a means of inquiry and action, it draws connections to graffiti artists anyway, so or drawing that's been used throughout history. So that's the reason why I'm a bit suspicious about using the word radical directly to describe the work that I'm making. But I think that the sort of etymology of the word and the idea of grasping something by the root is kind of maybe symbolized by the charcoal, definitely. I think that the closest it could get to this idea is through thinking about the charcoal and the way that we're using it in that space specifically, and the coercive properties of the charcoal, potential duplicity, the absorption of that material is inevitable. I wrote earlier about smudged boundaries and specks of ideas and the leakages and the spillages and the mess, and maybe that comes some way to thinking about this root, and then that might lead me on to thinking about rootedness and belonging. I hope as well that that charcoal as this metaphor presents a potential need as well to discuss individual and collective complicity in relation to the blackness of the material charcoal, and in conjunction with the words on the walls as provocations. And I think I hope that this isn't misinterpreted, but previous to this year, I'd been thinking about charcoal as well as a contagious material, and I suppose more optimistically about thinking about it as fundamental to our life on the planet. I just think drawing is so important to the way that we think and communicate, and then as a live art practice, highlighting the potentials of a reciprocal approach or relations between objects and people. I had a quote by Saidiya Hartman about also the mess of labour that I think is important to highlight within a gallery context, aside from market values or something. But the quote was in relation to my thinking around charcoal. Human life sprang from a black abyss, and from that dust and muck we traced our beginning. Base elements were the substrate of life. Blood and shit ushered us into the world. So this is this thinking around the material.
Could you post that in the chat, maybe? I think it'd be really good to remember that, because there's a lot of works in this room that deal with the body and the charcoal being carbon and being sort of muck and contagious is a really interesting idea that I hope we can explore some more in different ways. My personal thinking is also to question the idea of radical, but from a different perspective, and I just want to share a quote too. I'll share my screen to do that, I think. So this is by Karl Popper. I believe it is worthwhile trying to discover more about the world, even if this only teaches us how little we know. It might do us good to remember from time to time that while differing wildly in the various little bits we know, our infinite ignorance, we are equal. In our infinite ignorance, we are equal. That's quite a mouthful to say. That's a lot of eyes. But it struck me because I had met an artist who had worked on an exhibition at the Whitworth Art Gallery called Shuddha Sen Gupta, who had originally been the first one to tell me this quote when I had been a nervous pre-curator wanting to get into into training to be a curator, and he said we're all equal in our ignorance of something, and it comes from this quote. And actually that made me feel quite calm and also confident that I can learn from the artists that I would meet to curate their work, and that we would learn together. And it's interesting as well that then Mark Titchener also found power in this quote, and we have some of his works in this exhibition space at the moment, which we chose, called Some Questions About Us. And it's one of the most interesting things I've seen in terms of language that questions how we care, and using almost like a care checklist. So these questions of, are you free to determine your own actions? Who are the resources and support for those where are the resources and support for those who need them? Do others respect your intentions in what you choose to do? All of these things kind of get lost in the conversation of trying to get somewhere or trying to be something, or the capitalist environment that we're in, and the struggles we face and the precarity we face. And so, yeah, I think that language and writing on the wall is something that I would like to acknowledge as a place where I can begin to learn and feel the confidence that journey of learning with you is reciprocal, and that we will both grow as people because of this creative work. And I just wanted to sort of leave off with this quote as well, which is where I'll ask the next question, which we were talking about how what we're doing of transcribing onto the wall could be translated into pedagogies. And what I mean by that is, how can cultural institutions or education institutions find ways within this room, when they're able to engage with it more freely, to create learning for curators in training, artists, theologists, scientists, any kind of education. And this quote by Jacques Derrida, I think, really outlines for me how something like interpreting directly onto the wall could be interpreted in pedagogies. But what do you think, Jade?
Yeah, I don't know much about the house, but I'm teaching quite a lot at the moment, and working in university contexts and tutorials and alternatives to universities and art schools. So I think, thank you again for all that you just said. And I think that by focusing in on the drawing potentially, can trace this idea, which is what we're going to do today, of this becoming with drawing, which is what we're going to do. I also had a quote from Bessel van der Kolk, "The body keeps the score," around creativity, not specifically drawing, but Van der Kolk is a world expert on trauma and the effects on brain, mind and body, and he argues that the last thing that should be cut from school schedules, a chorus, physical education, recess, and anything else involving movement, play, and joyful engagement. And I extend that to the idea of drawing and creativity. And I think also any marginalization of creative subjects, and I think that we've been seeing that decline, and so I think this is a very small way of trying to speak to these issues and speak with others who have these concerns, because creativity is fundamental to a child's development, and I think that drawing is an essential pedagogical tool. Observational drawing, again, we can argue is key to communication and understanding, and the use of our senses. Yeah, I've written here, by this logic, observational study runs in parallel with movement to include drawing as a recording of somatic and commingling experiences. I've arrived at a formulation that drawing is more like performance. We're leaving a trace, and that trace can be a conversation. So I don't know much about pedagogies, but I do have a load of books here that speaks to that. So books that I am working with, and speaks to all these ideas, and I'll put them in the chat as well. Christina Sharp's In the Wake, Catherine Yusuf's A Billion Black Anthropocenes or None, Joshua Bennett's Bring Property Once Myself. I started reading in the bath this morning, Bambra and respective editors, Decolonizing the University. Also, there's McKittrick's Demonic Grounds. I'm really I'm trying to focus my work by thinking about Rothberg's idea of multidirectional memory, a book of the same title, and that led me to read the text from Claude Lanzmann's film Shoah. Also, Aruna D'Souza's White Walling, Art, Race and Protest in 3 Acts, and Harney and Moten's The Undercommons. Also, I think the reason I'm saying all these the books is because I think that the only way that I can think about pedagogies or teaching at all is through learning from others, and I'm currently working my way through Sylvia Winter's the book with Catherine McKittrick, and Sarah Ahmed's The Cultural Politics of Emotion, Dion Brand's Chronicles. Also thinking specifically to rootedness in this country, and the charcoal that we use comes from a charcoal maker who lives not far from me, and then thinking about land ownership, land use, and yeah, this idea of it, so that brings me on to just citing Guy Shrubsholes, who owns England, an earlier book, The Old Straight Track by Alfred Watkins. And last night I was fortunate to be in a book club with Nick Hayes, who's written a book on trespass. All of this connects as far as I'm concerned, but I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. That was absolutely super interesting, and I want to know every book. I think maybe we might have to build a book club around this show. That, yeah, because there's so much connected to that, isn't there? To who owns, who has the power, and we're in this building that is rooted in who owns. So yes, let's pick that back up. I just wanted to take a quick moment to show you guys the charcoal that I'm going to be drawing with. That comes directly from a gentleman who makes it from birch tree and willow branches, and it is incredibly beautiful. I don't know how visible this is, on the screen because it's so dark, but it has this kind of this glossy blackness that I can't describe as anything other than what Jade has described it at, which is velvet. And it is incredibly beautiful to work with. It is brittle and it is temporary in a way that really makes me, while I am using it on behalf of Jade, think of the temporaneity of everything, of life in general. And there is peace in that thinking, to live now in the moment when I can and have fun. So on that note, I'm going to start to write on the wall as Jade reads, and what I will do is I will stand ready, and as soon as Jade begins to read this text, I invite you all to listen to the words because they are really special, and I'm really grateful that Jade has written them.
Thanks, Nikita. Yeah, a little on the words, I suppose, as well. We've paraphrased from a longer chapter called Drawing as Contagion, which is forthcoming in a book edited by Kelly Chorpening and Rebecca Fortnam, and it's called A Companion Guide to Contemporary Drawing. So that will be available to read in the coming new year. Yeah. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence.
You can keep reading.
The charcoal is made from willow and birch. Amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet.
I might have to write on my walls now.
Can you reread?
No.
Charcoal
It's a metaphor.
is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity, and the roots of existence.
Great.
Would you tell me about your mum?
My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours. We make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch. Amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawing suggests charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch. Amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch. Amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch. Amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours, who make it from their homes in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made from carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours in the next valley, who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It is like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It is like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It's like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It is like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We are made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It is like velvet. Charcoal is fundamental to our life on the planet. We're made of carbon, and my drawings suggest charcoal is a metaphor for the roots of creativity and the roots of existence. My mum has always used charcoal made by our neighbours who make it from their home in the next valley. The charcoal is made from willow and birch, amazing thicknesses. It is like velvet.
Thank you.
Thank you. It looks beautiful, Nikita.
It's beautiful words. And it is fundamental. It feels wonderful to have been able to do this on your behalf.
Thank you. It's a privilege to make it with you. How did it feel drawing on the walls of the gallery in which you work as a curator?
I felt naughty.
I bet you did.
I felt good as well. It felt physical. It felt really nice to really touch something that in history we were instructed not to touch. My hand is burning, but I almost like it because I feel like I've really labored to write and really to express, which is a lovely feeling that I think can only come from drawing in such a way with a huge piece of charcoal. And I'll just show you one of the other.
I know, it's huge. Brilliant.
So I'm just gonna bring you guys to sit with me. First of all, thank you to Jade for allowing me to do this. It really is a massive privilege, and I couldn't ask to be any more lucky to be a trainee, learning from her and learning from the curators at Manchester Art Gallery as well, who are open and welcoming to different ideas and do not make me feel like I can't have something creative happen in a different way than is usual, which will go some way to how we think about creating new policies of care, which we'll be working on over the next year together and with the different teams. I also want to thank Innova for this opportunity as well, because without them, I couldn't be doing this, and I'll be forever grateful for that and hope I'm doing them proud. And also to Kate Jesson, who I would never be able to have thought I could question the way that I do without her support and strength and passion. And all of you for coming along on this journey with us as well today. I hope it's been a nice lunchtime event for you, and that you're all eating as well, because I know that in lockdown sometimes you can forget that. So please do make sure you eat well. That's my act of care for you today. I wanted to also thank Art Fund, Arts Council and the Esme Fairbairn for the support of Future Collect, because this is really important work, and while I'm the first trainee, there's going to be trainees after me, and they will be the future of institutional change, I believe, and have the potential, and I hope that the funders still to support that going forward. Yeah, so I guess this is the end of our performance, but Jade is still writing down her reading list. And also I wanted to invite anyone who wanted to stay for 15 minutes for a short chat. In about 5 minutes time, I will come back having washed myself a little of the charcoal, and we can talk and yeah, maybe unpack this event a little bit. If you wanted to stay, we'll be here until 1:15. Thank you. Also, a quick note as well, if there is anyone in the in this event who wanted to share their contact details with us so that we could work together maybe in the future on projects around Jade's exhibition space, that would also be great. So thank you. And I will see you in 5 minutes.
Thanks. I'm going to join you I'm just going to go, yeah, maybe get a drink. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.